This video is sponsored by Dungeon Hunter Champions, a free-to-play online action RPG. I've been given early access and played through quite a bit of it myself. The game is both single-player and multiplayer. There is a very interesting solo campaign with its own lore, as well as live 5v5 PvP. The game plays as a dungeon crawler with separate scenarios, with a base very similar to order halls in World of Warcraft. You can build your team of champions, level them, upgrade them, and send them into battle. There are 50 base characters available, each with 5 different elemental attributes, giving you the option to customize your team strategically. Dungeon Hunter Champions is free to play for Android, iOS, and Windows, so if you're interested, click the link in the description below. Hello guys, this is Doron's Movies, and today I'll be giving you 10 most tragic stories in World of Warcraft, covering some interesting character storylines and tragic events involving them. This video is a heavily modified version from a Russian YouTuber by the name of Blackrock, so without further ado, let's get into the lore. Number 10. Cairne Bloodhoof. For a long time, Cairne was the leader of the Bloodhoof Tauren, known for his great wisdom as well as strength and loyalty. For years, he led his people and protected them from extermination by the marauding centaurs. Completely unexpectedly, when the orcs arrived to Kalimdor, they quickly allied with the Tauren. Together with the trolls they had met previously, they formed the horde that we have today. As the Horde established its presence on the continent, so did the Tauren within the grasslands of Mulgore, constructing the city of Thunder Bluff. Most of the scattered Tauren tribes united under the rule of Cairne and the Horde. However, Megatha and the Grim Totem did not feel like he was fit to rule. Some years later, when Garrosh became the war chief, Cairne, as a wise ruler, completely opposed him. After an incident with the druids that died, he challenged him to a Magora, a duel to the death. Initially, Cairne easily dealt with Garrosh as a much stronger and taller opponent, but as Megatha poisoned Gorehowl, a cut caught up with the Tauren. Then, as he became faint and unable to defend himself, Cairne was killed by Hellscream. Immediately following that, the Grim Totem launched an attack upon Thunderbluff that would lead to a minor civil war. Cairne Bloodhoof, a Tauren that lived his entire life with honor, would meet a tragic death at the hands of betrayal. Number 9. Jaina Proudmoore. Her story is filled with ups and downs, as she is one of the most contrasting characters in the game. Jaina's first significant appearance was when she left Arthas' side and departed with survivors to the continent of Kalimdor. At that point, she became an influential force and, in a way, the bridge between the Horde and the Alliance. Jaina was known for her diplomatic attitude and the ability to compromise, even going as far as aiding in the death of her own father, who wanted to bring war. However, when Garrosh Hellscream took over, he almost completely disregarded any need for diplomacy. Aside from many other attacks, Garrosh bombed Terramore, obliterating the entire city and killing the leader of Kirintor, Ronan. Jaina barely survived this encounter, but ever since, she has never been the same. From that point forward, she sided more and more with the Alliance. This would lead into many future conflicts. However, this time Jaina saw no need for diplomacy. In Battle for Azeroth, she is trying to get her mother on the side of the Alliance, but due to the previous events, she is exiled. Looking at it from this perspective, Jaina sacrificed everything from her own father to her own kingdom for the sake of keeping peace with the Horde that then obliterated her entire city to the ground. So, even though complex and filled with many misunderstandings, the story of Jaina Proudmoore is most definitely a tragic one. Number 8. Darion Mograine. The son of Alexander Mograine and a former knight of the Argent Dawn. His brother, Renaud, murdered his father by stabbing him in the back, which in turn corrupted the Ashbringer. Darion then ventured into Noxramas and reclaimed the sword from his undead father, so he would only later discover that Alexander's soul was corrupted and trapped within the sword, so he made the biggest possible sacrifice and plunged the sword into his own heart in order to save his father. The The soul was redeemed, but in return, Darion turned into a Death Knight. He would later become the High Lord of Acheras, an order of Death Knights with the purpose of cleansing the Eastern Plague Lands by eradicating all living beings. In the massive planned assault on Lightscope Chapel, the entire plan failed. When Darion realized that Arthas sent him as a sacrifice, he rebelled but couldn't do much. So Darion threw the corrupted Ashbringer to Tyrion, who in turn purified it, which pushed the Lich King back and essentially freed the Death Knights, creating a new independent faction. Darion still continues to be a part of the Ebon Blade and even helped in the defeat of the Burning Legion. Regardless, even though still alive, well, as alive as a Death Knight can be, how he turned into a Death Knight and the fate of his family is nothing short of tragic. Number 7. Lilian Voss. A young woman raised by her father, High Priest Voss. From a very young age, she was a member of the Scarlet Crusade, and her entire childhood was dedicated to becoming a weapon to battle undead. She studied stealth, sorcery, martial arts, and everything that would help her become stronger. However, unfortunately, she fell in battle and her corpse was raised by the Forsaken's Valkyr. When she was supposed to join the Forsaken, she ran away in denial of her death. She had hoped her father would protect her and offer her a solution, but instead, he ordered her execution. When Lilian found out about this, she was enraged and went on a rampage. She turned on the Scarlet Crusade and now started a crusade against the Scarlet Crusade. Lilian later killed her father as she realized the brainwashing she had gone through as a child. Subsequently, she went on to help us on the alternate world of Draenor, as well as help us against the Burning Legion as a part of the Uncrowned. Lilian Voss also plays a role in Battle for Azeroth and no doubt will continue to play a role in the future. She definitely lived one interesting life, both as a living and as an undead. Number 6. Ner'zhul. Ner'zhul was the chieftain and the elder shaman of the Shadowmoon clan that was very well respected within the Orcish community. One day, however, he was deceived by the Burning Legion, thinking that he was talking to a spirit. He was responsible for uniting the Horde, and from this perspective, giving them right into the hands of the demons. Through Ner'zhul, they attacked Draenei settlements in the name of their ancestors, but much to Ner'zhul's surprise, he was seen as a monster by their actual spirits. When he analyzed the situation, he defied Kil'jaeden, so instead his apprentice Gul'dan took over the Horde. Ner'zhul realized his mistake, but was completely powerless to stop anything now. After the Horde was defeated in the Second War many years later, Ner'zhul would now lead the Horde once again, hoping to find new worlds to conquer. With several powerful artifacts, Ner'zhul had gained such great power that he actually stopped caring about his people and now only wanted to harness more and more. He essentially betrayed the Horde, only letting his followers pass. The portals he had created tore the entire planet apart, forming Outland. However, Ner'zhul did not escape. He was actually captured by the Legion and then tortured by Dreadlords, having his spirit extracted and turned into the Lich King. Later, he would merge with Arthas that would subsequently torture him with guilt in order to stop his influence and create one single mind of the Lich King. Ner'zhul would now fully disappear with a defeat at the Frozen Throne. All in all, this orc turned from a noble shaman into a monster that destroyed much of his race, his home planet, and even his own mind, indirectly. Number 5. Deathwing. Once known as Neltharion the Earthwarder, he was one of the 5 dragon aspects in charge of protecting Earth and deep places of Azeroth. Unknowingly at the time, he received the most difficult role and because of it was a victim to thousands of years of suffering. Seeing that the old gods are buried below the surface, it was not long until they began to influence and corrupt the mind of the noble dragon. Subsequently, Neltharion turned against his fellow aspects during the War of the Ancients, becoming now known as Deathwing, the Aspect of Death. For years, he was thought to have disappeared, only to involve himself in the Second War, later on retreating to Deepholm, the Elemental Realm, to regain strength. Just after the defeat of Yogg-Saron and the Lich King, Anzoth saw a great opportunity in the Fallen Dragon. Deathwing was imbued by significant power and was only held together by armor built by the Twilight's Hammer cult. Then Deathwing awoke and directly and indirectly caused the shattering of Azeroth. At the time, he was the biggest threat to the world. However, we now know that he was nothing but a puppet and that once the old gods were free, Deathwing would be disposed of. From this current perspective, it is obvious that Deathwing had one tragic fate, constantly under corrupting whispers that led him to bringing destruction upon the world he once protected, and this ultimately led to his demise. Number 4. Illidan Stormrage. Illidan's story is one of the most iconic tragic storylines in Warcraft. Long ago, he was just a night elf who was involved in the War of the Ancients. During the events, he was misunderstood and was seen as a traitor by his people, even giving him the title the Betrayer. Due to the perceived betrayal and him secretly creating a second Well of Eternity after the first one nearly destroyed the entire planet, he was imprisoned. For 10,000 years, he remained jailed in a dark cell, watched over by the Wardens. As he was released, he did a similar thing as he did during the first Burning Legion invasion. Illidan sided with the Legion, while at the same time planning to dismantle them. However, his actions were once again seen as that of a traitor. Illidan essentially sacrificed everything. As he ventured to Outland, he used his operations to learn more about demons and how to permanently defeat them and save the planet of Azeroth. Once again, he was misunderstood, but finally in the recent times we sided with him. This time Illidan ventured to Argus, where after the defeat of the World Soul, he became the jailer of Sargeras. His fate is currently unclear, but what we do know is that his life was filled with sacrifice and misunderstanding, but for the first time ever, that has been recognized. Number 3. Sindragosa. Long before the War of the Ancients, Sindragosa was a consort of Malygos, the aspect of the Blue Dragonflight, and at the time the guardian of all arcane magic. During the Burning Legion invasion, Deathwing convinced the dragons to empower an artifact called the Dragon Soul to help in the battle against the demons. However, they were unaware that he had previously succumbed to Old God Whispers and that other plans were in action. When Deathwing betrayed his brethren, Malygos together with Sindragosa and the Blue Dragonflight confronted him. Unfortunately, the power of the Dragon Soul was so strong that it obliterated nearly all of the Blue Dragonflight. Sindragosa in particular was mortally wounded and hurled so far across the planet that she reached the frozen north. There, blinded and near death, she was desperate to reach Dragonblight, the place where dragons instinctively go to die, but this was not possible. So, weakened, she plummeted to the cold earth in Icecrown. With the last remnants of her energy and strength, she called out Malygos for aid, but as the distance was far too great, this was a futile effort. Sindragosa lost her sanity, and her final thoughts turned to hatred against everyone, especially against the world of mortals. Therefore, she vowed for revenge. 10,000 years later, Arthas journeyed to her grave and raised her into undeath. She was later defeated with great effort in Icecrown by the adventurers. Sindragosa lived one tragic life, dying in worst possible conditions due to betrayal, far from her people, only to be raised as an undead to experience the same fate once again. Number 2. Sylvanas Windrunner. As one of the most controversial characters in the game, Sylvanas is most definitely complex. Long ago, she was a Ranger General of Silvermoon and a very skilled one as well. During the Third War, she bravely defended her kingdom from the overwhelming Scourge invasion, but unfortunately, no matter how hard she fought, there was never a chance. Ultimately, Sylvanas fell and then was transformed by Arthas into a Banshee, serving the same people that murdered her and her brethren. However, when the Lich King started losing control, Sylvanas together with some undead managed to break free. Under her command, the Forsaken were formed as they rebelled against the Scourge. Eventually, Eventually, they would join the Horde, vowing to defeat the Lich King in Northrend. Finally, this happened, but it did not ease the mind of Sylvanas. In fact, it only made it worse. When Sylvanas committed suicide, she came to the realization that as an undead, she is damned to an eternity of darkness in the afterlife. So, her new purpose became to protect her people. Currently, she is the war chief of the Horde and one of the most important characters in the new faction conflict. Looking at her entire story, what makes it tragic is that she didn't choose this fate, but because she fought for her kingdom, she received it. Now, Sylvanas is fighting her sisters in the war and embracing the undeath she was given. Number 1. Arthas Menethil. Probably the most iconic storyline of the Warcraft series, Arthas essentially represents the definition of tragic. He was the son of the King of Lordaeron and from a young age was trained as a paladin, showing great potential. However, everything changed when the Scourge invasion began. When Arthas saw the plague, his commitment to protect his people grew stronger with every atrocity he witnessed. Unfortunately, this undying wish to serve and his bravery led him to falling directly into the trap of the Lich King. Although he killed Kel'Thuzad and Mal'Ganis, he lost his soul in the process. Once he acquired Frostmourne, his life and free will eventually slipped from his grasp. Ultimately, he climbed the Frozen Throne and became the new Lich King. As a Death Knight, he did everything he once tried to stop. He killed his father, enslaved his people, and destroyed his kingdom. Many more atrocities were committed during his reign, but ultimately he was defeated. Then, the boy, the good side of Arthas, was finally freed and his tortured soul put to rest. Alright, and that is all I have for this video. Do leave your thoughts below and don't forget to like and subscribe as it really helps out and keeps all the content going. Thanks a lot for taking time out of the day to watch this video and see you next time.